The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey folks, we're about to get started. We're just testing some of the little things here and there, so I can get the recording set up. So let me first just make sure that you can hear me. So if you can in fact hear me, put in the chat box yes for you can hear me, and that would help. So we start with that. That would be helpful. And you can't see my screen yet. Yeah, so let me fix that. So let's get the screen going, and screen number two. Okay, so can I get in the questions box to yes to you can see my screen? Okay, perfect. Are you gonna hear a brief silence while I start the recording, and we'll get started. Welcome, everybody, to ENTERPRISE.expert. Today's episode is creating custom reports with a third party app called FinJinni Pro. Today is October 17th, 2018, and this is the October edition of the monthly webinar. Now, I'll say monthly in quotes because sometimes we do it monthly, sometimes we don't. With all the other webinars and stuff that we do, we end up doing maybe 8 a year or so for Enterprise.expert. But we're glad to be back. So the agenda for today, we'll spend a few minutes just doing the introductions. Then I'll quickly talk about some of the custom reporting issues we have with QuickBooks Desktop at the moment, and I'll give you some shortcuts and some cheat sheets that I have available. And then we'll jump in to do a live demo of FinJinni and leave it open for Q&A towards the end. So about myself, my name is Hector Garcia. I'm the CEO of Active CPA, which is an integrated consulting practice based out of Miami. We do QuickBooks and technology consulting for small businesses, typically around accounting and that sort of thing. And I am an advanced QuickBooks Pro advisor and an Intuit Premier reseller. My email is hector@garciacpa.com if you have any questions. Today's guest, his name is Jerry from a company called Gypsy BI, who is the creator of. I should put Jerry's last name there. Let me put the last name there. I think it'll be good to have. So is Jerry Metcalf from CTO from Gypsy BI, which is a developer of FinJinni, which has two products, FinJinni 123 and FinJinni Pro. We're going to be focusing on FinJinni Pro. And there's his email, jerrym@gypsybi.com. I'm sure you're going to have questions. So email him your questions about his software because it's pretty newcomer into the market. And I think you're going to be very excited about the capabilities of it. So he's the one that's going to be doing the demo of the software. Now, let me start by talking about some of the restrictions or challenges that we have in the QuickBooks Desktop world for custom reports. If you're brand new to custom reports, then you may want to click on that YouTube link that's there to watch about an hour and a half video where I kind of walk through the whole process of creating custom reports, but making the assumption that you're already familiar with custom reports in QuickBooks. What I want to do is just to add some context, tell you what are the general restrictions that we have with QuickBooks Desktop with custom reports. So there really technically is only two types of custom reports in the QuickBooks world. There's going to be when you click on the reports menu, and then we click on custom reports, we're going to have the custom summary and the custom detail, and that's about it. That's the two options that we have. When we pick a custom summary, which in the Excel world we can call that a pivot table, we are restricted to the columns and rows that QuickBooks gives to us. So there's about 20 options for the columns. So these are the things that we have here as options. And granted, most of these things are useful and they do take care of most of the issues with custom reports. But when we talk about having specialized software like FinJinni, we'll discuss about having access to pretty much every field that QuickBooks has. And then we have the restriction that we also have around rows. So this is a really important piece. We are restricted to a specific set of rows and columns when creating a custom report. So if I were to do something like sales by month, I would do something like this and essentially create a custom report with that, right? So yes, you have access to some, but my issue is the limitation. So I'm going to talk about a cheat sheet that I have that kind of lists what all those limitations are, which is actually a really good tool to have before embarking into building a custom report in QuickBooks or thinking about using a third-party app to build the report. So the other option here is the detail report, which unfortunately doesn't really have sort of a rows and columns component because it is a line by line transaction level type of report. The only thing that we have an option for is to create like a subtotal. So we can group the subtotal by a specific dimension. And we're also limited to the ones that they give you here in QuickBooks. Now, again, granted, this is probably useful stuff as well. So if I wanted to group it by month and then show maybe a whole year's worth of data and hit OK, and this will likely give me some of the data that I want, and I can run some filters. But I think QuickBooks Desktop, it's good at the filtering part, not so good at the summaries and the rows and the columns. So I wanted to just kind of give you some context. I think most people know how to build custom reports, and if you don't, this will make a lot more sense if you actually watch that video. But I do wanted to show you this cheat sheet that I built. Just go to bit.ly/QB custom reports. If you click on that, if you have the handout, or just type it in the URL, this is going to look like this. So once you click on that link, it's going to take you into this Google Sheet that I created, where I've grouped custom summary report and custom transaction detail report. And I put here whether these fields are available in rows, columns, filters, and if they are a sortable field or not, and whether they can be totaled by or filtered by. So I think this is going to be like just really, really useful when you're thinking about building custom reports and the type of fields that you want to see or you want to group by. Trust me, this has become my Bible for custom reports, and this has taken about 9 years to build, right? Adding things here and there. So there's a lot of value in just having access to this cheat sheet that we're making available to you. So I wanted to just kind of add some quick context around why this topic is important to me, and because I get asked to build a lot of custom reports for my customers, and I spend a lot of time trying to get the report, and it just doesn't work. So I built a cheat sheet so I can quickly know, yeah, I can do that or I can't do that. So that's really all I wanted to cover, and then I'm gonna let's go ahead and bring in the FinJinni. And so Jerry, are you on? Is your audio on?
Yes, it is. It is now. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Okay. Perfect. So let me do the quick introduction, Jerry, and then you'll correct me. And that way you don't have to sell your own software. I'll do the selling for you. So FinJinni Pro, which if you go into the website, okay, this is kind of like what it looks like. If you go into the website, they have two products that we're gonna kind of discuss. One is called FinJinni Professional, and the other one is called FinJinni 123, which we'll only discuss towards the end if we need to. But FinJinni Professional, the best way to describe it, it is a SQL based database that extracts all the data from QuickBooks Desktop or online, which is kind of the cool thing. It can do either, it can do both. It adds it into an SQL database, and then you can create your own queries or your own custom reports from this duplicate of your QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks database, and you can push it into any report building tools such as Crystal Reports, or for most users, to build it in Excel, because it's just really easy, really simple to build it in Excel and do pivot tables and that sort of thing. The software costs $1,000. I got a free copy in exchange on doing this webinar, so so that actually worked out for me. For the $1,000, it includes 5 companies. So you can actually add up to 5 companies, and I believe there's if you can buy them in blocks of 5 companies. And the reason why you want multiple companies is because you probably want to manage reports for multiple entities if you're an accounting professional, or you may be a business that wants to consolidate. And this all consolidation across the companies is built in, is baked into the cake of this software. You can run unlimited reports from Excel or whatever report building tool that you have, such as Crystal reports, from the ones that are pre-built. And one thing that I love about what they did is they included one customized report, because most people, when they buy the software, is because they want one very specific report, and it's difficult to build it on their own with pivot tables. So the FinJinni team, will, an actual human being, will listen to your problem and put the report together for you as part of the software. And then obviously afterwards, the tools are for you to build your own report. But if you need a custom report, they charge about $250 per report based on what it is, using their tool. So Jerry, did I miss anything important?
No, other than you can use multiple users as well. You can have multiple companies, and you can build one database that multiple users in your organization can access.
Okay, yeah. And just a quick correction, just for the recording here. This email needs to be corrected, right? So let me just correct it here. Okay, just got the message from him. I'm not sure what I misspelled, but it's a double
Y.
Double Y.
PSY, right?
Double Y. Okay, yeah, just correcting that. That's useful. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll fix that on the recording. Okay, Jerry. So what I asked Jerry to do, and I did the exercise with him in terms of what reports would be useful to look at in FinJinni. And we're going to look at a consolidated financial statement, so how it consolidates multiple files at the same time. And again, I'll add, it can even mix QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. You can have all online, all desktop, or a mixture. We'll talk about the comparative budget, which is a common report that I get where people want to see more columns to that budget. You created a custom report for one of your clients where you have a job costing report with the number of hours worked for the employees next to it, which for that particular customer, I guess that was useful. You also build a custom sort of commission bonus report, and you're going to show us that one as an example of a custom report that can be built. You can also do complete GL exports, which is really useful for large QuickBooks files that have 5-10 years worth of data. And QuickBooks is taking forever to pull reports that have a lot of data. And then one report that I asked him to show, because it's actually very, very pertinent now, it's sales by ship to state. So it's just an example of things that you can do. And I'm sure that the folks that are watching live are going to have questions about the specific reports that can be built. And you can build these reports in Excel, and you can send the Excel file to your client. If you're building it in-house, you can send it to the client without the client having to build the report themselves. Or if the client's building it, obviously they need to learn how to use the software. So it really depends on whether you're an accountant building a report for a client, or you're the small business owner itself. So Jerry, I'm going to give you presenter. And let's go in that order. So we'll start with the consolidated reports.
Okay, give me 1 second here. I'll just show my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. This is just our website to start.
Yep, I can see your screen.
Okay, I'll just minimize this. FinJinni Professional has two pieces. One piece which pulls all the data out of QuickBooks, puts it into a SQL database for reporting. And there's another piece that provides the reporting primarily in Excel. You can use other tools. We have people using with both Power BI and Crystal Reports as examples. But we have a built-in add-in to Excel that really gives you some powerful reporting. What you're seeing now is the administration side, where somebody has to extract the data from QuickBooks.
Quick question. I don't have to have QuickBooks open to do this, because you've already extracted the data and copied it as a separate database, correct?
Right. Well, the first time, right now, I've done that. The first time you run it, you will have to load the data from QuickBooks into our database. Once that's done, you don't need to have QuickBooks running. You don't even have to have this FinJinni application running. That's just for the extract part. You want to keep refreshing your data regularly, so the refreshes are incremental. And what we do is we load what's changed since the last time. So you can run this, you can schedule this to run overnight. You can run it once an hour if you want to stay current during the day. And we'll just extract, with the changes, which takes no time at all.
So behind the scenes, you can have an updated duplicate of the database for reporting purposes.
Right. It basically duplicates everything that's in QuickBooks. And as Hector mentioned, this particular company I have here is an online company. I have groups of companies. We'll go into some detail after we show the reporting. I have groups of companies. In this case, I have a group of 5 companies, 1 of which is online and 4 of which are desktop. Once I get the data from QuickBooks, I don't need QuickBooks anymore. I don't need FinJinni anymore. And that can also save QuickBooks user licenses. If you have people who want to do reports in Excel, they don't have to have a QuickBooks license, just the person who extracts the data. And now I could do everything in Excel.
That's an important point, though. If you have a client, a user that doesn't have a QuickBooks license, you do need full access to get all the QuickBooks data. So the user that's using this has to have access to all the data. I mean, that's just something this is more of a business issue, is the person that creates a report can see everything. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, that you can't restrict what that person can see. Once FinJinni gets the data, they got the whole database.
Correct, although we do not expose, the private data like social security numbers and such things.
That's good to know.
FinJinni has an Excel add-in. So now I'm not running QuickBooks anymore. I'm not running the FinJinni application anymore. All I need is Excel. I have an Excel add-in to FinJinni where I can choose which database I want, and I can name these any way I want, to have as many as I want. In this particular case, I'm going to start with just this samples database that I set up. And now I go into FinJinni and I run what we call queries. These are functional, so I don't have to know the data structures. I don't have to know anything about tables. I just know, look, I want a balance sheet. I want a trial balance. I want, by function. And I'm going to start with a simple balance sheet comparative, but I'm going to do it by company. So what happens here is that my drop-down shows me 5 companies. I'm going to see all my companies in one worksheet. With
and these are multiple QuickBooks files are connected to FinJinni that are grouped together as a consolidated group.
Yes, and I can define as many groups as I want. I can have a company in multiple groups. I can choose to report on individual companies, or I can choose to report consolidated. I'm just going to pick end of this year for my balance sheet. I'm going to add a totals column, and I go kind of fast through this. The central section is I can do all kinds of filters. I can filter by customer. I can filter by sales rep. I can filter by products. So I have a lot of ability to filter the data. I'll come back and show you how you add fields to the data because we have hundreds of them. But to start, I'm going to just pick a basic comparative. I'm going to put my, sorry.
Yeah, we have a question about that specifically. So there's a person that has a consolidated group of companies and each company has different classes, but some of these classes overlap through companies. So could I pull a report, a profit and loss across multiple companies using the same class?
We have the ability to remap either chart of accounts or classes by using custom fields, and I'll show you how that works in a minute in the accounts.
Okay.
So we can define for you a custom field on accounts, for example, and you can report on those custom fields instead of the regular account name, and that lets you map things to common names. So we do have that ability in a consolidated company. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put my company ID, I'm going to add a total, and I'm just going to put it in an Excel table. I have the ability to load pivot tables, and we'll do some work with that in a minute. But the simplest form is just a table. I have asked for a summary, so there's not a lot of detail. We'll get into that also. And here's my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 companies with a total. Very simply compared. Now there's some better formatting I can apply to this, but before I do, I just want to show you real quickly how I would add more detail to this. Here's I clicked on columns to select the columns, and I have choices of several hundred columns here, about 200 of them, anything from customer to account to different calendar fields, however I want to split up my data. But in this case, I just want my account descriptions in there. This is account name and number. I can separate them out into 2 columns if I want. For this purpose report, I just like having my account numbers and names all in one column here. So I've done that, and now I've got a table which isn't particularly meaningful. So I want to format this table. FinJinni has an option we call Format as a Report, which takes this and puts it into a statement format. And I'll just click that. It takes a minute to create the report. And what this is going to do now is give me a better statement format balance sheet, what I'd expect. With my totals all totaled up, I can open up the detail if I want to see them, or I can just look at my overall balance sheet. And this report, these are customizable by the end user. So if I want to use different fonts, if I want to use colors, the end user can come in and change the template that produces these so that you guys can have a little bit better formatting than this. But this gives you the basic financial reports. And these are very hard to produce in QuickBooks, especially if you notice that this middle one is a QuickBooks Online company. Okay, I think next I will go on to the next report that Hector wanted to see. Sorry, which one did you have on that list?
Yeah, can you just do the same thing with the profit and loss? Just so we can look at it.
Sure. Let's do a consolidated profit and loss. I just want a comparative profit and loss. I do want to add the total. I'm going to pick, in this case, these are QuickBooks sample companies, so the dates are all over the place in terms of years. I'll just pick all dates, and I'm going to add a total. And I'm going to put this in an Excel table. And now I got the same exact thing, profit and loss. And of course, what you can do with these fields is I can build a report any way I want. So I build it with the fields I want. These fields, you can change the order simply by dragging and dropping. So if I'm going to add account number, I'm going to add account name, and I'm going to drag the description. I'm slowly dragging. What I did is you right click, you click on one of these, and you just drag it up and release the mouse. And it's a simple drag and drop to reorder these, as well as to sort them. If I want to sort by name or instead of number, I just drag down from the top into the sort field. Then I can save this. So I can save these queries as custom templates of my own so I don't have to select fields every time I do this. But now I've got this little bit bigger table with P&L data. Not particularly useful, so I want to format that. I click the format button, and I just wait a second or two.
And it's important to mention that these are 5 QuickBooks files that you're consolidating in seconds. I mean, this is just a really important piece of it. I think most people have to realize that this is happening across 5 QuickBooks files, and one of them is online and 4 of them are desktop. So not to forget that, because that's kind of a big deal.
And when you extract the data from QuickBooks, we take everything so that you don't have to decide ahead of time what you want to see. We'll get the data out of QuickBooks, and when you're in Excel, that's when you decide what you want to see. There's no more pushing a report to Excel like you have to do in QuickBooks and then changing it in QuickBooks, pushing it back to Excel. It's a tremendous time saver.
What you mean by that is I can pick what accounts I don't want to see from here without running another query. It's just a filter.
Right. I just click on filters. Oops, I have to go back to the table in order to get filters. But I can click on my filters and I can say, well, I just want to see
income accounts.
Yeah, I have all accounts I can see. I just want to see income accounts. I don't want to see expense, and I just click OK, and it's going to update this to show just those.
That's great. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's instantaneous. Okay. I would like to show you how you get all of the data. And Hector, please correct me if you wanted to do this in a different order.
Let's do the budgets. Let's do the budgets, because that's a really important one.
For budget, I have to change to one of my other databases that has a budget in it. This sample didn't have a budget. And what I'm doing now is I've actually picked an online company for my budgets. I can budget off desktop or online. Online has a little bit better budgeting than desktop, even though QuickBooks budgeting is very primitive. And
you're not closing and opening Excel. You're keeping Excel open. Nope. You're switching the company, and you're creating a new table with that.
Right. I don't have to close any of my other worksheets. I can combine worksheets from multiple companies very easily.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to pick a budget report, which we have, which is a standard report, which is an actuals versus budget, but with month and year. And I can select which budget if I have multiple budgets. In this case, I won't do that right now. And let's see, I think I'll do, current year to date should be fine. and I'll put it in my budget in an Excel table. And what this is giving me now, it's giving me by account, it's giving me my current month budget, my prior year, sorry. So this is October's budget, last year's October's budget, the budget, excuse me, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is the current month actuals. This is the prior year current month actuals. This is the budget month for this month. And this is the year-to-date actuals, prior year budget, and the variances between actual and budget. And again, I can put these in a different order.
In different order, right? That's what I was going to tell you. Right? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. The variance would make more sense to move it to like next to the last. Yeah.
So you just you come back here and you drag the variance up here, and it's as simple as that to change columns.
And you can do the report format as a report as well, or is still just a table?
Most of these reports, some of these reports you can, some are formatted, and honestly, I don't recall which one this is. If you try to format one that doesn't have a format for, we do these on request. So if somebody knew, okay, this was a one that was requested by somebody specifically, we created the report for them. If they want it formatted, we'll do that also.
So the budget now is on table mode, but you can ask to format it as a report mode.
Right. And
okay.
I'll show you some examples of ones that people have asked to be formatted. So that takes care of the budget. Let me show you next the GL report. Oh, well, we'll do job costing next.
Job costing.
We have a lot of job costing reports, both for estimates, so we can compare estimates versus actuals here, as well as starting with simple P&L by job. The difference with our P&L is we go into the timetables as well as the P&L. So let me, excuse me, let me switch back to my database that has jobs in it, which is this one. And I want to do a P&L by job. I'm going to pick all dates because of that date ranges. I'm not sure which is valid. I'll pick all my companies so I get all my companies and jobs. And in this case, I've chosen to put the companies down sorry, let me scroll up. I've chosen to put the companies down the rows. I can put them across if I want as well. So this gives me my job. It gives me my standard credits, debits. It also gives me hours worked on jobs where I'm recording time. So on this one, I've recorded the total time that people have put on the job. I have the ability in FinJinni, and this works with credit numbers, debit numbers, so I can pick a number off the P&L and I can say show detail, but I'm going to do this first by time. So I want to see what went into this 2,500 hours on the job. And I just right-clicked, I said show detail, and it's giving me a summary. The color is selectable. I'm colorblind, so don't mind my choice of colors. And this gives me my total hours. It gives me by item, how much time has been put into the job, and then it gives me by employee. I can open it up and it gives me by employee that this guy put in 71 hours. I can even drill down further to that detail, which shows, okay, what days did he work those 71 hours? And this is the kind of job costing that contractors like to look at. This is obviously a contractor company.
Okay, let me ask a question. So David is asking, I have a client who wants a committed job cost report with the purchases to estimate and the recording time in hours compared to estimated hours, not dollars. So I guess, could you create a report that also has estimated number of hours? I guess we have to figure out where we get the data from, but because you're pulling that from the timesheet.
We're pulling that from QuickBooks time reporting, which comes from the timesheet. It is all in QuickBooks. And do we have a sample? I'm just going to check real quick if I have a sample of something like that. We have created those kind of reports that are work in progress. I have to, sorry, I know I have to switch to a different database for that. Let me show you a report we did create custom for someone, and what David's asking for would probably be very similar to this. I'm going to go into, we have a section we call custom queries, and these are ones that we've done custom for people. Anything below that is standard with the product. But if you want one of these, we do this for free. So we even do it for free during someone's trial period. So there's no risk to people. We'll just create the report they want. And this is a work in progress report. Oh, sorry, I don't have that. I must be in the wrong database.
Well, while you get that sorted, let me ask you.
Let me just pause my screen for a second. I'll go look for that report that I have for David.
Okay, so while you do that, I'll ask you slowly so I don't mess you up on your search. When you consolidate, so going back to Consolidated for a second, there's a very common use case where all the companies have different chart of accounts. Is there a way to intervene and map the accounts, or is this something you still have to fix at the QuickBooks level?
No, no, you do not. We have the ability on accounts, and I'm going to go into the field selection to show you. We have custom fields. I'll switch back to the other database and show you. We have custom fields, and these fields come from QuickBooks. So here's customer custom fields, for example, job custom fields.
Yeah.
We have created what we call account custom fields,
okay,
where you can define a custom field for accounts. And what you do is you create an Excel spreadsheet that says my old account, my new account. The new account has nothing to do with QuickBooks. You create that Excel spreadsheet, you save it in our template folder, and FinJinni's smart enough to go to that, and for reporting, we can report on the new account names instead of the old account names. So we're basically letting you create these custom fields on accounts that you can't do in QuickBooks. It doesn't allow custom fields on accounts. And then when you report, like I picked account name or account description, I would just pick one of these other custom fields. If I can show you an example in a minute.
Don't go to that, because that will take us in a different direction. I know you will get excited about that. Is there? Do you have any documentation or tutorial on how that works?
In our when you go to our website, you can download our administrative manual, and there's a section creating a custom chart of accounts. It's
I'll
one page, very simple.
I'll email that to everybody. So the answer is yes. I can have a chart of accounts are all over the place on 5 different files. I can create an Excel spreadsheet mapping where I have the old file name, the old account name, and the new account name, and you can program FinJinni to pull the new reorganized chart of accounts for the purposes of displaying a remapped, organized, cleaner, shorter, summarized, consolidated financial statement.
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to see, because one of there's an app called QVinci, which is very popular in the QuickBooks world for consolidation, but usually people are paying like $15 to $20 per company per month. So you'll get your $1,000 worth really quick with FinJinni, but that their strong point is the mapping of the chart of accounts. So that's good that you covered that.
Yep, and you don't pay extra for any kind of analysis. You get all the reports, you get all the columns, you get everything you want in one product. I'm going to go back to this job report we call work in progress. It's a work in progress report because it was designed to show here job status, in progress jobs, as well as closed jobs, pending jobs, and so on. It calculates a lot of fields, like here's my contract from the estimate. Here's the revenue earned to date. Here's the actual revenue, gross profit, and so on and so forth. But it also has a formatted version, and I can take this data table and I can format it as a report. This is a custom one we've done for someone, and it's a very nice format because it gives me all my jobs. Here's all my in-progress jobs. Here's my completed jobs. Here's my last year's jobs. And all the different fields that people wanted calculated, percentages, profits, total costs, and so on and so forth. This particular one doesn't have hours in it, but you saw the other one does, and it's a matter of just customizing reports to combine these. We can combine any of this data that we get from QuickBooks.
I like that you separate prior year and current year, because that's a challenge we have with WIP reports or estimate versus actual reports in QuickBooks, where you can only pick a specific date range and it'll show you everything. But that's actually pretty neat to know, okay, how much did we bill last year, how much are we billing this year, but still pulling the original revised contract regardless of what year it was created. So that's actually really useful.
Right. In most cases, people have done this by hand. It takes them hours or days to do these by hand. And what we do is we match what we give you to what you're used to by hand. We're not forcing you to use our format for the report.
Okay.
Next thing I'd like to show is how we get the total GL. And this will show also some pivot tables, how we do that. I'm going to switch to a company where I've loaded the entire company over a period of 18 years of data. Now they have one QuickBooks file. They'd never consolidated it. They never cleaned it up. It actually has all their data from operations over a long period of time. I'm going to go into my general ledger. Sorry, move some of these. Go into financial queries. I'm going to go into my general ledger and ask for all the detail for all of my years, which go from 2001 to 2019. I'm going to put it in a pivot table in a minute, but I'll just start with, I just want to put it into an Excel table to show you. Oops, sorry, I didn't select any data here. Let me go back there.
And while you load that, I have to ask you some questions about multi-currency. So if you can pause your screen while you answer this question, not to confuse the viewers. So if you have have you done the multi-currency, any tests with multi-currency yet? Because I know that gets really interesting.
We support multi-currency to the extent of we don't do currency conversions ourselves. We'll do reporting based on your home currency. So for example, if you're a US company and you sell to Canada, you're going to sell in Canadian dollars, but your home currency is still US dollars. So we can cover that case, but we do not do currency conversions.
What happens if we have two company files and they're both QuickBooks Desktop? One the home currency is US dollars, the other one is, let's say, Canadian dollars. When you consolidate, do you assume that they're all the same unitary value, or is it smart enough to know that they're different home currencies?
No, we do not support consolidating separate home currencies at this time.
Okay, the system won't let you, or it will do it all as if it was the same currency.
Right.
Okay.
It has to have all the same currency.
All the same.
So right, and we do support Canadian companies. We have some Canadian companies using it that that do multiple currencies, but they all have the same. They always have their same home currency. Right. For Canadian companies, also, I want to mention that we also support all the Canadian taxes, the GST, HST kind of thing. Let me go back to where I was. So I picked my database that has my 18 years of data. I just had to find the right one. I'm going to go back to my general ledger. To detail, I'll pick all my dates again. And now this might take 5 or 10 seconds. Trying to get, if you tried to do a QuickBooks report that had 18 years of data, I think you'd be waiting a little while. So that probably took more like 3 seconds.
A QuickBooks detail report with 165,000 lines. Well, it takes about 10 minutes to load or 5 minutes to load, and then it takes another 20 minutes to export into Excel. So the fact that you did this in seconds, obviously this is the SQL engine that can do this. But right. Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
And we have every single line item from every single transaction so that you can analyze it. Now, you wouldn't normally put this in an Excel table. Normally, you'd be putting this into a pivot table. So let me go back here and let me say put this into a pivot table. And Hector's the pivot table expert here. I'm not a great pivot table person, so he's going to tell me what he wants to see in these reports, I think.
Yeah, usually you're a database person or a pivot table person, right? So I would say let's bring account type to the filter section, and we'll bring amount into values.
Sorry, it's actually selecting the wrong one. Let me just get rid of this other sheet so I don't have this problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Account type there.
And then amount into values, and account description into rows. That could be one way of doing it. And then you can go to account type and select expenses.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to put years in here also.
Okay.
So let me go back to that. We're going to do this as
on
a new
query.
pivot table.
So as an important point. So you could choose what fields you're going to bring in so you can pivot them. So there's actually a field for the calendar year, for calendar month. Depends on how you want to bring the data.
So here's like fiscal year, for example, I have fiscal week, quarter.
Right.
Break it down any way you want. If you really want to, you can bring in 200 fields. I can click on every one of these and bring in 200 fields into a pivot table. I
Right.
probably don't want to do that.
Bring the class field as well. I don't know if your database has the class field.
Yep, sorry, but I just clicked in the wrong place. Let me click back to fields. Okay,
Yes.
We're going to go back here and we're going to say class.
Yep.
We'll
Perfect.
put class in there.
And let's pivot.
And we want year, which was under calendar. Calendars are broken out separately. I want fiscal year.
Correct.
A month. Okay, and I think that's fine that way.
Yeah. Right. So we're bringing 19 years worth of data with a class, with the year field, so we can maybe summarize data in a very specific way.
Yep.
So,
and now again, I'll put discount description there, account type, amount into values, account type here. It probably wants me to delete these other ones, so let me quickly get rid of those.
They have the same name.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And now I want to put years across in columns. So I take fiscal year, I put it in my columns. Now I've got a little bit better one that has my fiscal years across. Right. And again, I think you wanted to filter on account type, which I can come here and filter.
Just do like expenses. I think that would probably something like that would be useful.
Right. Expenses and
then bring the class up to the filters.
Okay, class was here. Okay.
See if they have anything in there, so you can pivot that. You can pivot that. Oh, there you go. So you can pick any of those things, corn, whatever.
There we go.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. So this is just really powerful stuff. You can have 166,000 lines of data, and whatever QuickBooks field it is, and do that. So yeah, that's actually really great.
And it's instant. You can see the response is instantaneous. And I know it's the power of Excel and SQL, but we're bringing it to you that you just can't do this.
Yeah, and people always ask about reports. I mean, let's just this is gonna look crazy, but take a stab at it. If you click on design, without really getting into QuickBooks reports, but if you click anywhere in the pivot table and click on the design tab in the top where it says pivot table tools, all the way to the right. And you click on design or analyze. I think it's analyze. Yeah, analyze.
Oh, yeah, analyze is what you wanted to do charting.
Yeah, you do a pivot chart, and then maybe pick one that would. Yeah, I guess that would work. That column will work.
Well, this chart may not be meaningful, but you get the idea.
You get the idea. You may have to deal with what's the y-axis and what's the x-axis, but you technically can create any sort of graphical reports as long as I got the raw data and it's organized and I got the fields. It does that. And then some people were asking about, how does SQL work? Well, in this case, it doesn't really matter because you're not really touching SQL. This is all happening behind the scenes. So you don't have to know how SQL works as long as you know the fields that you want. And like you say, you're trying to make them to be common sense, right? You don't have to know the code, account type, account name, all these things that people can make sense out of. When you click on any of those fields, all the stuff, all the Microsoft SQL stuff is happening really behind the scenes. As long as you start experimenting with what these fields are, you'll be pretty comfortable with knowing where they come from.
Yes, you really don't have to know anything about SQL to use this. Only if you want to start doing some really advanced reporting or use other tools like Crystal Reports. But those are for programmers for the most part.
So let's move on to the you had a custom commission bonus report, and that's people always ask for commission reports. That's
okay. I'll show you the commission report, and I'll show you how to get it by state as well. I just have to switch to back to that database that had that data in it. And now what I want to do is I want to look at, this was my bonus report, which I just have to remember where that was put. Was that custom? Yeah. No, sorry. It's under stand. So anything you see that's not custom is a standard report that you can get out of us. Oh, sorry, no. I just have to, oh, it's under job, I put it under job costing. There it is. There's my bonus report. I will pick probably just all dates because I don't remember what years were in here. Now, what this report is doing for me, it's taking by job, it's also taking employees out. But the credits and debits are by job. Labor is a specific allocation of, the labor costs. Profit by job is just a simple credits minus debits. So now these numbers here that are shaded are by job. There's a hard code. This was a custom report we did for someone. So there's a hard-coded value they can configure. There's an ability to configure these reports, but it's fixed at 10%. So 10% of the profit on the job goes into a bonus pool. And here's the $66,000 total bonus. It's paid out to employees based on the percent of time they spent on the job. So this employee put 600 hours into the job out of a total of 2,500 for the job, which was 27% of the job. He gets 27% of the bonus. So and it adds them all up.
It's a very specific use case, right? This is a company that gives a percentage of their profits, 10% of their profits, back to the employees, proportionate to the amount of time they spend on the job. Not every company works like this. This is why this is a very custom report.
Yes, and again, this is a custom report they requested. We created it for them, and they just get to use it. They don't have to know anything about how to program these.
Yeah, but you could technically build a commission report that doesn't look at time, just looks at a percentage of profit. As long as you can hard code what that commission percentage is, I guess yes, that could work.
And we do have some sales commission. We have some standard sales commission reports where we'll calculate sales commissions, and we do it off of a custom field called commission rate. So in QuickBooks, for the salesman, they create this custom field, and we'll pull that out, and we'll create a report calculated on that custom field. So you can report on custom fields as well as regular fields.
But let me get that straight. So if your sales rep is a vendor or an employee, and you add the custom field in there, and you add a percentage or maybe a decimal, FinJinni will create the commission calculated based on that percentage in the either vendor or employee custom field database.
That's correct.
Okay.
Here's the sample. Actually, I do have some data. So here's a sales rep. Here's how many sales he had. Here's total sales. Here's his commission rate, and they're different. You can see they're different. And there's the calculated commission.
Is that one available right off the bat? That one's available right off the bat, right?
That's a standard sales report under commission. It will only work if you define that custom field in QuickBooks.
Well, if you don't define the custom field, then the calculation would be 0. And I guess you could just simply go in there and do it in Excel yourself. Just add the percentages, right?
Sure, you could do a sales report and add the percentages, but this gives you the ability to do it
automatically.
Automatically.
Right. I love that. And the sales by state. The sales by state.
You also mentioned sales by state. All of our standard sales queries, you can do, for example, here's I'll just do a summary. I'm going to do it by ship address. So I'm going to do a sales by address, and that's going to give it to me by, in this case, it's probably going to give it to me by city, because I just had that in. If I want to summarize by state, all I do is take out city, and it'll summarize it by state instead. It's all automatic based on how many fields.
You do a quick pivot table. Again, you show me that one, the summary by state with sales tax.
Yeah. So let's do that again. Summary by state with sales tax. Well, that's actually had sales tax, but we'll put it in a pivot table. I selected a summary, so it's just telling me it doesn't have all the detail, but it'll work anyway. And we wanted to have, here's sales tax and values. I could put income in there, I suppose, if I wanted to see income as well. I suppose I want to see ship state in rows. And that's what I got, basically. Ship states, you can see sales tax and sales and income.
Even if they don't have sales tax, you could just use it to look at income by ship to. That's the key. This is ship to state, not bill to state. So it pulls data from different.
And you can do either one. We could do it by bill to if we want it by bill to. It's all a matter of how we want to show it. But if I need to see sales tax, for QuickBooks Online, by the way, QuickBooks Online has no way to get this kind of sales tax with gross sales by state, because that's what you need to report. You need
QuickBooks Desktop doesn't have
sales by state.
So just to be clear, QuickBooks Desktop doesn't have it either.
Okay. Well, we can give you sales tax by state with gross sales by state, so you can fill out your tax reports without having to do any kind of crazy, research.
Can you show me that the master document that you have that contains all the information about you said you have this big like 100-page document that shows you everything about FinJinni. Can you show me how to get that?
Sure. I mean, in the product,
I would say out of the product, because some folks like to kind of see the document before they buy the product. So
go to free trial.
Okay, free trial, yeah.
On our website, you do have to enter your name.
Yeah, you got to capture that lead.
Yep. But that's all we capture. There's no other information needed.
Right. Okay, so you get a 15-day free trial for up to
15-day free trial is fully functional, but only 2 companies. Okay. I can download the product. I can download the admin guide or the query manual. The difference is admin's for the admin program, queries for Excel, and the query manual documents all the fields. So you just click here to download the PDF, and you get the manual. And this has, like you asked, for example, consolidating the chart of accounts. There's a section here where you just click on it and tells you how to consolidate the chart of accounts.
Okay. So the document kind of tells you what the software can do and can't do, that type of thing.
Right.
Okay. And Angela's asking a really good question. What if you have sales where some of the sales don't have a ship to address? Could you program it so it automatically picks up the bill to address when the ship to address is blank?
Yeah, in fact, in some reports we do that already. In other ones, in this you'd probably have to customize. But yes, we can do that. Okay,
so that's an interesting one. Okay, let me see what other questions I have here. That's a good question here. Do you run reports that are either cash basis or accrual basis? I think I know the answer to this.
Yes, you have a choice. No,
you don't have a choice.
Yep, you have a choice. If you seek, let's see, what sales wouldn't have a cash or accrual? P&L.
Oh, interesting.
Accrual or cash? Just switch between.
Question. So this is more of a technical question. Are you pulling from the data and constructing the cash basis report, or are you pulling the actual cash basis report from?
Yes. QuickBooks? No, we construct, and this is a difference between us and QuickBooks. We construct the cash basis report. What we do, and we construct every report. When you look at one of our P&Ls, even the accrual ones, what we have done is we've taken the QuickBooks transactions and analyzed them. So we took a bill, we took an invoice, and we looked at every item on that. We said, okay, how does that affect the GL? And we recalculate the entire GL. So we're not even looking at the QuickBooks reports.
So it could be different. That's what you're saying. It could be. There's a chance that it could be different on the cash basis.
It could be different on a cash basis.
I agree with you.
But it's very rare, because what we do also is we give you 2 categories of cash. We give you what we've calculated, and we give you adjustments that have to be made to match QuickBooks. So one of the reports we have is we call a balance variance report, which hopefully will have no variances. What we do is we pull all the QuickBooks trial balances out. We pull all the FinJinni calculated balances and we compare them. And in this case, it shows we've calculated for those 5 companies. There's no difference, and there never should be a difference. In cash you can see an occasional difference because QuickBooks cash is just nuts.
It's nuts, right? We would have to get really nerdy about the details about how cash basis works inside QuickBooks. Now, on the inventory side, can you show me what canned reports you have in the inventory? We only have a few minutes left.
We don't have a tremendous amount of canned reports on inventory. We're always interested in more. So if anybody has any specifics that they want, we'll show you on what's on hand. We can show you sales by item and things like that. But we do track advanced inventory, so we can give you lots, and if you have advanced inventory, we can give you reporting on lots and sites. But we don't have a tremendous number of inventory reports at this point.
So you're still working on that, right? So you're taking feedback on that. Okay.
Right. We'd love feedback on that.
That's good, because I have a whole bunch. Okay. Now, so Edgar's asking, can you connect this to Power BI? So the answer, because it's just so you know, Edgar, if the database is an SQL, then you don't even have to ask, right? If it's an SQL, of course you can go to Power BI. Of course you can go to Crystal Reports. So just want to clarify that. So the answer is yes, you can go to Power BI. Jerry, you have any comments about Power BI?
No, we have people using it. The only thing I would say is that it's Microsoft SQL Server, so it works really well with any Microsoft products. And Crystal, I know Crystal isn't. We have people using it with Crystal as well.
Okay. What else, is there anything else you want to add in the last couple of minutes that we have here?
No, other than
maybe show another report that you've wowed somebody with in the past.
I probably gone through most of these: the WIP, the job costing, the
well, I'll throw
budgets,
one at,
financials.
I'll throw one at you. Sometimes people want to see a report of what hasn't sold, like inactive. Like, tell me what I have not ever used or touched in the last 2 years, right? Because most reporting tools focus on what you have sold, but like what items have not moved in the last 2 years. So could you build? Is that possible? Could you even build that?
Oh yes, we could build that, because I can give you one where I do have the ability to cut. So if I were to do an items by revenue, I could do a filter, and the filter would be something like this, where quantity equals 0.
Right.
And that will let me do a report based on 0. I mean, I'd have to test this, and I don't want to try to do something off it.
Theoretically, you have the data to be able to do something like that.
Right. We have all the data. And we do this based on requests. So if someone has a lot of these reports have come out of requests. If someone has a request, we either create it custom for them, or we'll add it to the product, and so that everybody can get to it.
Okay. All right. I think I don't think I have any other questions that you can answer in this case. So on the multi-currency end, do you see anything in the short term being done, with multiple companies with multiple home currencies?
We'd like to talk to people, because the biggest problem with with reporting in multiple currencies is trying to determine when to convert.
Right.
And so I'd very much like to talk to anyone who has that situation, and we'd be very interested in adding the capability. We can do this like we do the custom reports. We can do this completely outside of QuickBooks with a conversion table.
So you're saying if you got a live case, a live use case of someone with this problem, where multiple companies, different home currencies, and they want to buy the software, they can email you, tell you the problem, and then you can say, look, I could do this for you for XY dollar amount, or it's possible or not possible. You're open to that. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And we're actively looking for both inventory and that. We're actively looking for people who have this need.
Question: When you QuickBooks has there's a question I have here from Steve. QuickBooks has the capacity to add attachments to a transaction. Does that data come in, like whether or not there's an attachment on that transaction? Is that a field?
We get the attachment data, particularly from online. I know we do online. I'd have to look up desktop.
So there's a field that says, yes, there's an attachment, or no.
But we don't get the actual attachment.
Of course. We're good with that. We're good with that. But whether or not it has an attachment, that's what we want. Whether or not it has an attachment.
That we do have.
That you do have. Okay. Well, so people are asking, how does somebody learn how to use this software after they get it? The PDF guides that you mentioned are the best thing, correct?
Yep. Yeah. The guide is available in Excel. You just it comes with the product. You can download it ahead of time. It documents how to use the product. It documents all the fields in the product, and so on and so forth. We will also do demos for people. If someone needs an explanation of how this works, we'll gladly get on a go-to-meeting with them and show them.
And do you have an expert program where people can get kind of certified or become expert at it, so you can recommend them to people trying to build their custom reports?
Not at this point, but we do work with pro advisors, and we'll give people pro advisors special discounts.
Okay.
If they.
So I assume email you for that type of stuff.
They should email. Yep. Contact us. Either contact us through the website or contact me directly.
Okay. All right. So Jerry, thank you very much. By the way, just wanted to give a quick. The reason why I brought Jerry on is because you guys are small enough so that they're small enough so that they're actually listening to our real problems. So I actually came to him with a couple of use cases I had, and he built the reports as a result of that. And he's also very keen on working with my group of, let's call it, database nerdy friends in terms of taking feedback on how to make the software better. So I have a feeling that FinJinni is going to be very much adapted to like sort of the advanced QuickBooks user community because they've been exposed to it. So just wanted to tell you why I thought it would be valuable to bring him on and expose him here in the webinar. So email Jerry if you have a question or concern about it. Hopefully it will solve your problem, your reporting problem in the long run. And Jerry, I'll go ahead and cut you off so I can wrap it up here. Okay.
Thank you, Hector.
Okay. All right. So we want to get back on track on monthly webinars. We're talking to different developers of sort of advanced tools for QuickBooks Desktop and that sort of thing. Start bringing them on. So if we do have an episode next month, it would be the third Wednesday of November. That's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So we'll see if you'll get an email basically whether or not there is one, and we don't have a topic. So just have faith that it'll be good. Let me run a quick polling question. I'd like to know whether or not you liked this episode, the content, if it's useful or not, and then I'll talk about some of the upcoming webinars that I have coming soon. So just give me one more minute, and we'll wrap this up. Okay, and yeah, just put in the questions box. Give me some feedback or email me in terms of this type of content. It's all a third party app. It's all pretty advanced. Is this the type of stuff that you want to see? I need to know this because I'm used to just kind of showing things that are more tangible. Because obviously, if you don't have the app, you can't do anything with it. But this type of deep dives on an app are things I have to think about, just because. I mean, I think for the most part, and I'll just be honest with you, I want to get paid from from the app developers for this sort of thing, and I do have a venue for that. It's called QB Power Hour, and I think most people here know it, and people do pay to get on. But Enterprise Expert has never been a sponsored webinar. I call this the indie webinar. So this is the indie webinar where I kind of just explore and experiment. But if this software becomes big enough for mainstream, we'll bring them into a bigger webinar and obviously have the vendor pay for. So just let them know if you do buy that you heard from here. That would be helpful as well. All right, let's go ahead and close that polling question. And other recommended events. So tomorrow, if you're watching this live, Thursday, October 18th, we're having an episode in QB Power Hour called Setting Up Sales Tax in QuickBooks Online. So you go to qbpowerhour.com to register for that. And that's a series every other week. So if you're watching this recording on YouTube and it's the future, then just register for it. There's all sorts of interesting concepts that we cover today. I also have another webinar tomorrow, Thursday, the 18th at 2 p.m. Eastern, called YouTube Analytics. That's very different than this. Very, very different than this. So there's the link if you wanted to register for that. So I'm having a guest speaker kind of critique my YouTube channel through analytics. So I think we'll learn a lot about like people's video watching behavior, how good my videos are in certain aspects, and what makes people like a video, not like a video. So if you're also considering, building your marketing strategy through YouTube, I think this will be a very interesting episode to watch on the video marketing for accountants. And of course, we have our weekly Out of Advisory podcast Facebook page. So you can go to facebook.com/Out of Advisory to join that. And we talk about just transitioning to advisory services. So somehow, somewhere, I managed to get 1,000 webinars and content out with all my client work. And I continue to do it, and I continue to do it as long as people show up. So if you need to contact me, there's my email, and let's continue the conversation in our Facebook group. I'll go ahead and wrap it up. And guys, have a wonderful day. For some of you, I'll see you in tomorrow's webinar. And thank you, Jerry.